Since early 2003, the United States of America has been fighting a different kind of war than in the past. Men and women put their lives on the line in service of this great nation. A simple fall or accident can cause a TBI, while many others come from mortar attacks and roadside bombs. 10 to 20% of all these valued combat troops sustain traumatic brain injuries, or TBI, during their tour of duty. The Fort Campbell Warrior Resiliency and Recovery Center has been recognized as a model treatment program for treating mild traumatic brain injuries and post-traumatic stress disorder. Specialist Fraser fell from a helicopter April 12, 2008 while serving in Iraq. He suffered life-threatening injuries and a concussion, which led to his traumatic brain injury.
All I remember was that I was in a Black Hawk and I fell out. I don't remember too much, and I just remember, thank God I was alive, and surprised that I'm actually still walking.
So at that time, I didn't have a clear idea of what the actual injury was. I just was thinking, he said that he had injured his wrist. He's like, oh, he just fell and he injured his wrist. So I wasn't thinking that it was anything that was life-threatening or anything like that. I didn't actually find out until the next morning when I got a long-distance call from Iraq from his surgeon that it was actually a life-threatening incident that he had been through.
I think what concerns family members the most is the changes that they've seen in their service member. Maybe some of the changes started at their first deployment and they're returning from their second or third deployment and things have just gotten worse and they don't understand it. And once we sit down with the soldier and the family member and look at the functions of the frontal lobe, we look at the functions of what the overlapping symptoms of PTSD and TBI are, they start saying, oh, okay, I understand. And I think once the soldier sees that they're not going crazy, that they do have these symptoms, and their family understands it, they can work together and they can overcome.
As a physical therapist, what we're able to do is bring the patient in and initially perform a complete balance assessment on them. If there's any problem with the balance, we can then see which system it seems to be coming from, and then we perform dynamic vision assessment. Based on those assessments, we're then able to formulate an individualized treatment plan for the patient. If the patient has a balance deficit, we can see if it might be from their somatosensory system, that's their feet giving them information about the surface that they're standing on, could be input from their visual system, could also be from their vestibular, inner ear if you want to think about it, system. We have so many options to use as far as for the modalities. We use a stationary bike that's different in that it has about 25 different courses that the patient can virtual reality be traveling through. Some of those offer them cognitive challenges with their visual system. We have a light board that we use that's called a T-wall that works with different reaction times.
In occupational therapy, we use a number of virtual reality simulators. As you'll see behind me, we have a virtual combat convoy trainer, and we use this kind of at the far end of the spectrum when soldiers are working towards getting back into their respective job roles. And we use this to simulate combat scenarios to see, as I was saying earlier, how they adapt to their environment. So when they begin receiving fire, how do they respond as a team? How do they work within their SOPs to respond appropriately and to communicate, navigate, return fire, and call up the appropriate communication on the radio?
Staff Sergeant Jesse Sage was injured in an IED blast June 13, 2008. It was the second he'd experienced in combat.
We had just come to kind of a choke point area that we had to narrow down. We had to go through there, and I had just looked over and told my driver, since we were on point, and my gunner over the intercom system, hey, look sharp, this would be a great place for an IED. And about 60 seconds later, we hit a massive one. And then kind of the immediately following that, I was unconscious for a while, not quite sure how long I was out for. But I remember coming to with my driver yelling at me and not being able to see anything at all. And my first thought was, are my eyes messed up or what's going on? You know, you're kind of blinking. It's that whole, just kind of out of it. Everything's just happening very surreal. You can't hear anything. Everything's very slow. The only thing that was really noise-wise that I could really kind of focus on was my driver, Hovey, is just, you know, kind of yelling and shaking me or whatever. So came to, tried to get my bearing, and I just remember going, wow, that was a big one. Towards the end there, where it was getting down to the wire to take the, whether or not I was going to go back to my unit or I was going to go to Germany, I really wasn't very upfront with the providers at that time. This is kind of where I went wrong. And I was still having those symptoms of the blurred vision, these severe headaches that were just debilitating, and some problems with the, you know, hearing. I was also extremely agitated. The littlest thing would just set me off. And I was always finding myself trying to hold it together. I'd tell myself, you know, if you don't hold this together, you know, they're going to send you to Germany.
It was just very frustrating not to know what was going on or what to expect. So when we came to the TBI clinic here at Fort Campbell, we really felt like they had their stuff together. They were willing to talk to us about these things, provide us resources, provide us alternatives in terms of way to deal with situations.
What we're about to do is the last step in the return to duty process. We're going to put our soldiers through a combat scenario in which they're going to have to act as a squad-sized element and react to fire. This is really important because it puts together all elements of their treatment thus far. It's going to put together their cognitive rehab, their balance and vestibular rehab, as well as their mental health. So we're definitely going to stimulate all their senses, their visual, their hearing, their emotional senses, as they embark on this real-life combat scenario to see how they're able to adapt to their environment and how they're able to act within the parameters that they would normally act in for their job roles.
What we're about to experience, our patients are going to go through the mount site over here. They're going to go through in a tactical formation, act as a squad. We've been preparing them for this from week 1 to week 5. Even though they don't work together, they've slowly come together as a team. While they're doing all this, they'll act in their roles, both by rank and MOS. Not always do we have our 11 Bravos. Sometimes we'll have support group. So we will take those people and grade them in their roles, not only by the MOS, but the rank.
I mean, essentially what we try and do here is the medical aspect, the actual memory recall of the actual skill within itself is not complicated. Say, for example, the simple application of a tourniquet is very easy to do. However, the application of a tourniquet when someone's trying to kill you becomes a whole lot different. So what we try to do at this point is to make the situation as realistic as possible, to put as much stress into it to see if that we can actually function as we're supposed to and reproduce that skill into a moment of stress. Where we've been able to really increase or improve the program on what we have is we still stick with the same mantra, you know, fight as you train as you fight, fight as you train. So if I can, in our experience, if we make it as realistic as possible, that way the soldier can go through those skills, they can reproduce it in a stressful environment. That only not gives the command and us confidence in the soldier's ability, it also gives the soldier himself confidence in the ability that he can go downrange and reproduce the skill that we ask him.
Early diagnosis and treatment of TBI and its associated symptoms is critical to preventing future injury and helps facilitate a successful recovery. The Blanchfield Hospital's Warrior Resiliency and Recovery Center is committed to giving our country's fighting men and women the best opportunity to recover and lead full, productive, and meaningful lives.